Hello, this is AI, Tools or Gods. Today, my guest is Maria Sukhareva. Maria has been working in natural language processing since 2008, well before it became a headline topic. She is a principal AI expert at a DAX company and the author of AI Realist, a newsletter read by many thousands of people who want an honest, evidence based account of what AI systems actually do, rather than what they are sold as. She's one of the clearest voices I know for treating AI as a serious technical field rather than a mythology in progress. Billions of dollars have been invested in generative AI over the past 3 years. A 2025 MIT study found that 95% of organizations report zero return on that investment. While the methodology of that study is a bit shaky, or has, at the very least, some substantial limitations, the number is still impressive. At the same time, the companies behind these tools are still raising money at record valuations. Governments are still writing major legislation about them, and the vocabulary used to describe what they do, words like intelligence, reasoning, understanding, keeps expanding rather than contracting. Something in that picture does not add up. Either the technology is failing to deliver, and the narrative has not caught up with reality, or the narrative was never about the technology in the first place. Maria, you have been documenting the distance between AI hype and AI reality for longer than most people. Is the problem that people do not understand the technology, or is it something else?
I think part might be the problem that people do not understand the technology, but I think the reality might be actually a little bit sadder because I have a feeling that many people who promote AI hype, they understand technology quite well, and they do not really have an issue with saying something that is might be not entirely realistic, as long as it results in some kind of commercial gains, because those the same people, they actually used to work in serious research. They come from the background of artificial intelligence, and some of them have very distinguished researchers, very famous, and then they come into the news and they start either maximizing the probability of doom or probability of hype, talking about existential threat, or the opposite about AI substituting humans, like that we should treat these LLM prompts with tools that are agents as actually employees or something like this. And you understand that this person, like, he knows what he's doing. Like he knows what he's saying. He knows that it's not true because he's was one of those who was writing paper about it. He's working in this. He knows the limitation. He's still saying this, and then suddenly you see that they get billions of investments purely based on those talks without showing any kind of deliverables. And of course, then the questions arise whether this is a misunderstanding of technology or some other motive.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of hinted at the other motive in your answer. Um, Looking now at the anatomy of hype, you know, in your Substack, AI Realist, you have an introduction post which is really useful to see what's in there, and you make an observation with the fact that self-proclaimed AI experts have started shifting their narratives from praising AI to reducing it now to a glorified spell checker. And I have to admit, I'm maybe one of the people that kind of tends to call it a calculator. Um, but they're doing that, you say, because that's what the audience wants to hear now. And so it suggests that the hype cycle creates its own counter hype to a certain extent. And that's also not completely accurate or honest. So is anti-hype becoming its own market? And if so, where does that leave people? And by people, I mean investors, managers, or users, anyone trying to make real decisions, who are trying to cut through all the noise.
Yes, you're right. I noticed quite a big shift, especially on social media, where people suddenly, even those who I've seen before being very pro AI, posting about the transformative power and anything, suddenly being like, where's the return on investment? Is this is this AI bubble? Like suddenly everything was an AI bubble. And I have a feeling that there might be very similar motives behind this too. So yeah, some might be basically trying to jumping on this train of getting famous and being such a contrarian. And it's easy to be a contrarian when the majority is actually supporting you, like this fake contrarian. Like try to be a contrarian when everyone says that this is transformative power, and you say no. Then it also might be that it's time for them to switch because first they pitch to their clients or to their bosses this transformative power, and now that there is nothing happens, maybe it's time for them to start saying something different, because if they continue that narrative, eventually someone might come to them and say, but you promised. And then they might also hope that, well, that their promises will be forgotten and they can pretend that, that's actually what I was always worrying about. So this could be also the case. And again, this goes into a different way because I started seeing people also kind of like seriously like saying like, oh, this is useless, we should abandon large language models, we are not coming to agis for large language models and so on. And who said that agi should be the ultimate goal of this, or who said that if we are not coming to agi, that's the only useful application of this? Language models can be incredibly useful. They can be useful for text classification, for extracting some kind of entities. They can be very useful for, let's say, like reasoning over a large amount of ontologies, like what we see that the volunteer, for example, doing. We can see, we can find a lot of very, very useful applications of LLMs, and I really, or like coding, AI assisted coding. That's where we saw the huge transformation happening. So I really feel like um, this narrative that it's useless. It's also going to be very damaging. And that's what I was worrying about in the very beginning, because as much as people hype in the beginning, then so much they will hate this when it will not meet their expectations. And we've seen this many times in history. When this hate comes, then a very good technology, a very good area of research can be fully discredited. And now everyone who kind of associates themselves with AI, large language models, can be somehow seen as a scam, as a um, person who hypes, who makes unrealistic promises, which is absolutely not the case. It's a serious area. It's people that there are lots of very good specialists here. The only problem is those people usually do not have enough time to post on social media and give talks to promote their views, or simply they got shut down because they are not welcome with their views too.
Yeah, that is actually a good point. Is people that are very active on social media are probably not the ones building the tools. um, because of your technical knowledge, you have tried, or you actually succeed in explaining the technology and what these systems actually do. But what do you think? What is needed for that technical reality to change the public conversation, and why has it not happened so far?
Well, I feel like there's still a lot of people who didn't try it. Uh, in my opinion, like the best way to understand what those things can do or cannot do is just try it yourself. And very frequently, if you have some kind of a business client and they start asking about this and that, you just tell them to go to ChatGPT or wherever, like try to chat with it, try to get what comes out of this. And then when they start using it, they very quickly start understanding the limitations and where it's good, where it's not good. And then this mysticism that there's like some kind of obscure AI that will either obliterate us all, or I don't know, replace us all, or make us all super rich. That all kind of goes away when you start using this. So a lot. What needs to happen is probably that people just start using it more and integrate it into their workflows, because currently I feel like people chat a little bit with ChatGPT and then kind of forget about it. And it's not an integral part of our daily life. So that's probably why there's still so much room for unrealistic promises or some kind of strange narratives, because yeah, people just do not test it.
So basically, playing with it gives you a better view of what it exactly does and doesn't do. Also, um,
Exactly.
so switching to your last mile analogy and your last mile framing in your Substack, which I really enjoyed, even though last mile means something else when you're coming from the telecom sector, like me. Um, so the idea is that progress in AI and progress in technology in general plateaus precisely where it gets hard, and that hype then accelerates to compensate, uh, and that explains, a lot of the language and the narratives that we see currently in AI. And you specifically at some point in one of your essays, you write that vendors unable to deliver on their earlier promises of exponential progress are growing increasingly desperate to maintain their valuations, so that the bold claims about replacing half of the office workforce um, appear with increasing frequency, when in fact progress is actually stalled and is not advancing at the same speed as the language about it. So if the last problem is the last mile problem is real, and progress is generally slowing at the moment, what should we expect to see happening to organizations, companies, regulators, governments that have been building their strategies on different assumptions?
Well, that's a very good question, because, of course, well, yes, last mile is basically the idea that it's very easy to go from 0 to 50%, especially like people who do machine learning, right? It's easy to train the model that it performs like 70% accuracy. Then it's a bit harder to get to 90%, and it's pretty much impossible to get to 100%. And many companies started integrating AI on the assumption that it will get to 100% in the same speed as it got to 70% and 90%. And now suddenly the bots continue hallucinating, agents snowball hallucinations, and nobody wants to use them. Still, everyone wants to build them. So, what I think will happen, so there will be definitely a massive wave of disappointment of the in what it's already starting. So there are already some funds being pulled out of these agentic stories. So mm, I think like how it usually happens. Once they realize they cannot hit the 100%, then they start asking themselves, can we salvage something from our investments? So can we save any budget, or did we lose everything? And then they start looking at what else this stuff is good for, and that's usually where you find something that it's good for. So then you start putting a human in the loop. Then you start switching the focus from, let's say, 100% accuracy to 80% accuracy plus manual checking. So I think that's what's going to happen here. And actually, I think kind of an interesting step towards this direction is now the shift towards this open claw type of agents. Because before, the concept was you put an agent somewhere in the cloud, you put another agent in the cloud, and like a whole like lot of agents, and they like do something autonomously, ask each other, talk to each other, and voila, it's you modeled Microsoft, right? Like with like micro hard of Elon Musk, right? Like, and here's your company working. And then somehow this didn't work, and now they discovered that the useful agent is actually the one that lives on your desktop and hyper personalized to you, and the one you steer, and the one that does fairly simple tasks like programmatic tasks. Because what OpenClaw mostly does is, I don't know, like sorting um, your files, sending a message, like basically executing tools from one place, but the entry point is still the human. So the agent is basically the human who says what to do. And I think this will be a very useful um, application of agents. It's kind of an extension of what happened with AI assisted coding, because coders were actually using agents exactly in this way for over a year now, with like GitHub Copilot, where they were like basically just like prompting what to code, watching what code, fixing it, and so on. So I think that's where it's going, and we will probably see a lot of those desktop agents, apps, whatever you call them, coming, that will basically be just interfaces for calling various enterprise tools in natural language with the human supervision, and not so much obscure agent employees, AI colleagues, whatever they were called, doing something there on their own and substituting it. So I think that's probably where you can salvage like some kind of the budget you invested into this. But of course, those who went all in, like training, some kind of models, like building massive this agentic networks or whatever I've seen a lot of strange ideas. Um, so some will just go lost again.
Um, and I think what I liked is in one of your articles you talk about why AI agents disappoint, and you really put numbers to it. So you basically said that they achieve around 11 to 14% accuracy on realistic web tasks compared to 78% for humans. So yay, we're still winning to a certain extent. But you now said, okay, so that means that when they're on the desktop and they're doing limited tasks, they're useful, but in the other stuff, they're kind of all over the place. But what can we expect for that desperation to produce that people should watch for, both in the products themselves and in the narratives used to sell them? So what should people be wary of when they see agentic AI being pushed on them?
I think they're like the disparate, like, first of all, this disappointment is, of course, will be somewhat of a problem for serious AI projects, or even if before it wasn't a problem to get 100 million for fine tuning some kind of model, eventually it might be a problem for getting 27 euros for Microsoft Copilot license, because people like the managers will be simple. Well, we already wasted so much money on this, and nothing came out of this. Why should I invest another 27 euros? So this is something that we probably should watch out for, so we don't cancel the whole area just because this 100% didn't happen. And I don't know if we will have AI pushed so much anymore on people. I feel like it might actually chill down a bit this pressure to use AI. Um, I think it might be actually the opposite, that eventually the other voices get too loud, the ones that are like AI is dangerous, AI is bad, AI is wasting money, and so on. There will be, because now there is also a lot of this military usage of AI and so on, and people like getting scared. There's lots of stuff happening in the European Union with the UAI Act, where they also like doing something, but it's like I don't know if they actually know what they're doing there. So they keep on pushing these deadlines and coming up with other things, and they kind of like. I think we might actually like swing into the opposite direction eventually. Yeah.
Um, well, I'm not sure if governments have caught up on that one, but let's look at the governance story. Um, you write a series of blog posts called Three Things, And in one of them, you argue that Europe is not competing at the AI frontier, and it actually might be in denial about it, which I found funny as an image to get. And you describe a region, Europe, whose regulatory ambition is not matched by its technical output or by its commercial position. And you used phrases like roaring dinosaur, and it talked about a continent that keeps roaring about past greatness, while the gap with the US and China widens in the AI space. So obviously, aside from the funny factor, and there is the sad factor that it's probably true, what you're saying, and well, probably it is true. Um, and the European narrative, that we're all hearing is that value-based, human-centric AI governance is itself a competitive advantage. It's a different kind of leadership that we are trying to bring to the world. But your analysis suggests that the gap between the frontier and European capability is widening, and that that leadership is not really delivering in terms of results in the AI space. So my question is the current AI governance, whether in Europe or elsewhere, regulating the technology that exists, the technology that is promised, or a mythology about both?
Hmm. I think a lot of what is regulated is regulated as potential risks. So someone sat down and is like, what scary things can happen? Now let's try to prohibit them before they happen. And a lot of this, what they're doing, they're trying to protect people from themselves, which I'm not a huge fan in general. I feel like people should basically maybe even learn on their mistakes. But by doing this, by, for example, trying to regulate AI as a technology, because the EU AI, for example, regulates this general practice AI, so like basically training of language models, and they pose some kind of very strange, not strange, but very difficult to fulfill criteria. For example, providing accounting what training data, like for all the training data there. It's like if you train on the whole internet, it's almost physically impossible to account for everything that is in there, and then exclude some kind of high risk. Use cases, but high risk use cases, Claude can, for example, work as the last step in kill chain. It can also work as a thing that tells fairy tales to children. So it's the same technology doing the same thing. So how do you exclude this one thing but not the other one? And these probabilistic models, it's also very hard to put the guardrails that would completely exclude any kind of misuse. And it's so basically while we are discussing this, or what we see on the other side happening. We see, for example, the US. They built a wonderful uh, system with Palantir, so that is relies on ontologies that integrates multiple data sources. And through this, they build an amazing knowledge base that can be, for example, very well used in the business, like their Foundry, but it happened to use very well also in the military, where they profile the war theaters in this way. And thanks to this semantic layer that they built there, LLM can reason over them and, for example, target many um, targets with high precision in seconds, which before would have taken hours. So and what we have, well, basically, their technology is so powerful that if they would happen to have an issue with the European Union, for example, China or someone else would build something like this and would decide to be the aggressor against European Union. European Union would have absolutely no way to protect themselves other than hope that US will help. Because the only way to protect yourself from high precision strikes orchestrated with this semantic layer and ontology is to have some kind of a dome that also orchestrates the defense this way. But if you don't have a language model, if you don't have a graph database, you just will be sitting there and waiting till everything goes boom around you. And what will you protect yourself with the AI Act? Well, it might be thick, but it's not thick enough to protect yourself from a missile falling on your head.
That gives me a reminiscence of the GPS technology and satellites, which we're also dependent on if ever they get switched off by the United States in terms of our navigation.
Oh.
Um, it's kind of the same vibe,
Mhm.
different issue. Um, Now you have worked in industrial AI for quite some time,
Mhm.
and you've seen multiple hype cycles. So what does the current one on AI look like from inside a large organization that's trying to use these tools? How do you see that cycle? You said that, there's been too much investment, disappointment. Now they're trying to salvage the money they put in it to show something. But let's think in 1 year's time, how do you see the hype cycle being digested by organizations?
So my personal opinion, what I saw currently in different large enterprises, the chain of integration of AI looks approximately like this. The top management hears a presentation about AI from some kind of consulting company, and then they go and tell to CTO, or we need AI. He goes lower, he says, we need AI. It goes all to the very bottom to some kind of middle manager of 6 people or something. And then he comes to this people and says, we need to find use cases. We need to find problems that we need to solve with AI. And these people start going to the business, and the business has no idea what AI is, and they're like, "Well, I don't know, like build us a chatbot or something," and everyone starts building chatbots, and eventually, every company I think has an avalanche of these chatbots that talks about every wiki, every SharePoint. Some more adventurous companies even put them externally, so let them chat with the customers. Those chatbots in the beginning were selling cars for €1 or something like this, and they still quite easily hackable if you try to. So and that's I think that was and also those chatbots were not the cheapest ones, so they like quite a bit of money was going into building them. So now we renamed a lot of those chatbots into agents, and we basically basically they're doing the same stuff for frequently exactly the same stuff, but they're now called agents. Mm, Now I feel like that's a bit going like the interest in chatbot goes low, and there are less POCs starting with AI because I think everyone already built a POC who wanted. And the focus goes on the actually buying the enterprise solutions. So now we have quite mature enterprise solutions coming, like Gemini. I mean, OpenAI is trying to release something there. I don't know if they will be successful or not with this. Then, I mean, Microsoft obviously is quite good for those who are in Microsoft enterprise, Microsoft ecosystem. So I guess eventually it all goes to the point just buy and get the license, buy stuff now when they will have this open close style of bots. I think that's what will be integrated, and way less will be of stuff that will be self-built. So I guess that will be the tendency, just buying established off-the-shelf tools, and most of the POCs, the chatbots that were built in the past years, they'll probably be killed, like maybe 99% of them, I would guess.
Well, I mean, good news for Microsoft and Google, I guess. And,
I
um,
think yes. Google particularly.
we're reaching the closing questions, and I'm asking the same two questions to every guest so that I can, compare apples with apples at the end. So, first closing question: what is the one thing that decision makers, business or government, most consistently misunderstand about AI right now?
I would say the cognitive abilities of AI. So I would I have a feeling that they imagine that the cognitive abilities of LLM is by far stronger than it actually is. And this is something that, from one side, inflated expectations and also provoked unnecessary spendings. And that what might essentially also, in a way, discredit the field to some extent. Plus, it all was amplified by lots of hype that was kind of like putting the gas into the fire of this unrealistic news. So I guess what a lot of people didn't misunderstand is basically that cognitively, these things are nowhere close to being anything like an AI employee, AI colleague, or anything like this. It's mostly just a prompt that can call 20, 30 tools at best at a time. Otherwise, it's confused. While humans can call as many tools like as we can only think of, and we have a combinatorical way to combine this. We have an ability to adapt to the workflow. We have the ability to question the workflow, to change it. We have the ability to say no. LLMs are much simpler and w- way less flexible and honestly nowhere close to the cognitive abilities of a human. Definitely not a PhD in a computer or in a like a IR PhDs in data centers, as someone called them.
I'm smiling because it makes me think of that analogy that Jan LeCun made between self-driving cars and humans, saying that millions have been invested in self-driving cars and they still can't drive alone. And if you pay 10 hours of driving school to a human, they can drive a car, basically.
Yes.
So we're not yet there. Um, my second question is then, if you could change one thing about how the public conversation about AI is conducted, what would it be?
That's a very good question too, because I would probably invite more people like Jan LeCun and people who were experts in the area before ChatGPT appeared, and would challenge people to not just show PowerPoint engineering. I would probably reduce the amount of PowerPoint engineering to and substitute it with the actual verifiable demonstration and tests where we can actually see that these things are working. So I think I would just get rid of all the PowerPoint engineering and propaganda. So
That is not a good conclusion for Microsoft if you're saying less PowerPoint, but at least you promoted them before, I guess. But I think it's not limited to engineering. I think less PowerPoint should be the message in general in life.
yeah,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Maria, for your contribution. And I encourage everyone to subscribe to your Substack, the AI Realist. The link will be in the description. And keep on informing us. Thank you.
thank you.